Okay, y'all, welcome back to Where Y'all From, the second part of this video. If you'll recall, we were talking about my experiences as a new English major and the differences that I experienced whenever I moved from a primary discourse community where we spoke very differently than I was expected to in the secondary discourse community where I was becoming an English major. This helps you hopefully see how primary and secondary discourses differ from one another. So you in your primary discourse community, as I was saying earlier, you acquire your language. You just soak it up from the environment, from your family, your friends, from the community where you grew up. And you automatically belong to that primary discourse without any effort on your part. Secondary discourses, however, you have to learn the way language is used in those particular groups. It's a group that you want to belong to, but you have to figure out, what do I have to say? What do I have to do and believe in order to belong to this particular group? And the only way you do that is you pay attention to how others are using language. This is called something, this is something called meta-linguistic awareness. And Darren Krovitz and Michelle Devereaux from More Grammar to Get Things Done, that second book we're going to read, talk about meta-linguistic awareness a lot because they say students need that in order to recognize how language is used so that they can shift it to demonstrate that they belong. Depending on how similar your primary discourse community is to your secondary discourse community, that determines how much effort you'll have to exert to fit into that secondary discourse community. And in my case, as I said before, I had to exert a lot of effort. I had to spend some time being quiet, listening, observing, so that I could translate my primary discourse into a secondary discourse that would make sense for the folks around me. So, primary discourses and secondary discourses do have something in common, and that is called communicative competence. It means exactly what it sounds like. It is the way that you speak so that you can appear to be competent in a particular community. Matsuda and Hamel say that it involves not only the knowledge and discourse, but also even the awareness of appropriate ways of creating social relationships. So you can see that it's much bigger even than the way that we read and we write. It's about connecting to others in that community. But both of those communities, primary discourse and secondary discourse communities, require that community competence so that you can develop this sense of belonging. The way that you're communicating allows you to demonstrate you're competent and you get to belong to part of that group. And that belonging is part of your linguistic identity. You'll notice that I've used the plural here. That's because we have more than one linguistic identity. You could say that we're fluent in lots of different languages with air quotes around them that correlate with our earliest identities, those that we've acquired. Like for me, that would be daughter, sister, best friend, good student in my primary discourse community. And later, with the identities that we want to learn. So in my case, that was an English major who wanted to sound smart and be confident again. Um, in one of the resources that you're going to read or to watch, that video called Ebonics 101, you're really going to see this notion of linguistic identities in action. This idea that how you use language connects to who you are is your linguistic identity. Stephen Willis is a slam poet who performs his poem Ebonics 101, and he actually starts out by saying, perhaps I should start this poem by informing you I'm bilingual. And once again, he's not talking about speaking an English or a language other than English. He's contrasting what he calls the Queen's English, which sounds more like standardized English, with Ebonics, which is his primary discourse from his primary discourse community. And from his incredible slam poem, I think you'll see that linguistic identities have everything to do with social power. And that has to do with intersections among race, class, and language. You're going to see that in all the text that we're going to be looking at over the next few modules. In a minute, we'll do some review and I'll talk some more about why this matters to you as a teacher. See you in the next